And welcome back to Open Line. I'm Chuck Long here with legal expert Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. Over 35 years in the legal business, one of the top legal companies in the entire state of Tennessee. So we are so glad that Kevin's with us. Kevin?
Always good to be with you, Chuck.
A lot of folks calling in. We want to get right back to these calls. If you are just tuning in, though, and you do have a legal question you've been wondering about any number of things, the number's on your screen, 737-7587. Give us a call as soon as you can. All right, we go back to the lines right now. Barbara is on the line with us. Barbara, good evening. Do you have a question for Kevin? Can you hear us, Barbara? Barbara, can you hear us? All right, we may have, Barbara, if you can't hear us, you can always call back. I tell you what, we are going to go right back to the lines, though. Cardella is on the line. Cardella, how are you this evening?
I'm doing fine. How you doing?
We're great. Do you have a question for Kevin?
Yes, I do. My question is this. I purchased some furniture from a furniture store, and I had full insurance with it. To cover my furniture, but what they did is send me some furniture that was not new. They sent me a piece of refurbished furniture that was damaged. They sent someone out to the house and they proved that it was damaged, and they claimed they was ordering a part for the furniture. But they never came back and never repaired it, and never came back and fixed it. Then they called me once and said they was going to come pick it up, but they never did. To give me a new, it was a living set. And they never gave me another set. Well, it's been 2 years. This year they sent me a letter for a judgment. What do I do about that?
Okay. Cardella, that is a rip-off. And it could happen to 10,000 people. One of the things about a pandemic, it brings some of the worst out in people because rip-offs. So when you go and buy something and they've represented that it is new and you get it and it is not new, and they represent that they're going to take care of it, that is an intentional misrepresentation on their part, and quite frankly that brings on civil liability. Now you want to do what's right, you're going to do what's right, so that's why we have Tennessee Consumer Affairs. And I would pick up the phone and I would call Tennessee Consumer Affairs and I would file a complaint immediately, do it tomorrow. So it sounds like they are trying to sue you now because they're maintaining you haven't paid for it. And of course, you have a defense that said the quality of your representation didn't meet what had been represented to me. You said you were going to pick it up. So again, what do we learn from this? Immediately take a proactive approach, and sometimes if it were there, you should even get a friend to go with you back to the store or get them on the line or send them a certified letter, and you keep that and show there's documentation that they didn't shoot straight with you. It's incumbent upon us to protect our own rights. And every time we do business, whether it's a car lot, a repair shop, a plumber, you have to always protect yourself. You need a writing. We don't really know what the extent of the expense was. If it was more than $500, it must be in writing, and that would be a defense if they sued us. So again, there's a lot of tricks. I'd call Tennessee Consumer Affairs. That's what our tax dollars go to, protect individuals from unscrupulous dealers.
All right, great to know, Cardell. We're glad that you called in on that. A lot of people can learn from that and benefit from that advice, so very good. All right, we're going back to the lines right now, and it looks like Evan is on the line with us. Evan, good evening. Do you have a question for Kevin?
Yes. If I'm standing or walking in public and a law enforcement officer comes up and asks for my ID and asking questions about my intentions, does he have to give a reason for the confrontation, or is it illegal profiling? Otherwise, if I'm at a public event and someone in street clothes comes up and says they're retired FBI and say whatever and ask questions, is that blue light banditry unless they show ID when there are plenty of uniformed security officers in uniform metro that could do the confrontation, who I might ask to see ID in return to see whether or not they're a retired government agent or they think they are because they may be elderly.
Okay. What you've done, you have identified an issue. Basically, it gets up to interpretation. If it's a law enforcement officer, they'd question him, did you have probable cause to stop? Then, what is probable cause? Because we got a tip there's a suspicious person in Channel 5 studio wearing a pink coat. Well, they're all going to come in on me. And so, again, if they said, hey, we want to stop you, can we search you? Well, you have a right against that search. It's called the Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizure. And if you say, no, I'm not giving you permission, why did you stop me? I'm not giving you permission to search. And if they did search that, then that's illegal. There's about 10 million laws that go with. If they turned and arrested you for disorderly conduct, then there's an exception. It's called search incident to arrest. So when they arrest you, they can search your person. It's a gray area. Is that backpack on my person or not? Is it constructive possession, meaning I'm the person that has the possession because it's closest to me, or I'd be maintaining that's not my backpack. That's Chuck. Chuck said that wasn't my backpack. Y'all already know what Chuck's going to say. Chuck will say that's not my back. But you've identified all these issues. I like to try to have a spirit of cooperation, but if you know someone's intentionally trying to push you, then you have certain rights constitutionally, and that's the way I would handle it.
All right, we so appreciate that call. Good to know. Again, great advice. Very, very good. All right, we're going back to the lines right now. So Kevin is on the line with us. Kevin, welcome to Open Line. We're glad that you're joining us. Yeah, go ahead with your question.
Hey, I got a question. I was driving down the left side of the road, and the car came into one, and it took me. Is it my fault or is it theirs?
Okay, we kind of cut in and out a little bit. If you're driving on the left-hand side of the road, well, you know, police, if you park on the left-hand side, they're going to write you a ticket. If you're outside your lane, they're going to write you a ticket. A lot of gray areas. A whole lot of gray areas. That's when creative, skilled lawyers try to interpret the facts. If there was something that was obstructing your lane and it caused you to go around without becoming a danger to others, certainly that would be my posture. And again, your lawyer is going to maintain you didn't do anything wrong because A, B, and C, and a creative lawyer is going to explain that. When people get in trouble, there needs to be a reasonable explanation of the circumstances. That's why this is not what it appears. One of my greatest legal arguments in the jury trials that I won 11 in a row, I used to talk about things are not always as they appear. So with that, I would create and talk about things that it may appear that it's this way, but when we see the real facts, it wasn't. And you know, just because a police officer says you're guilty, Chuck, that doesn't mean you're guilty. You can be accused, and I can be accused of anything tonight. Sometimes we're going to have to stand up and fight. Now, can someone swear out a warrant tonight on Chuck? Absolutely. Will they arrest him? I'd say, Chuck, don't resist. We're going to have to deal with the bond. We'll have to deal with a court date. But that's American jurisprudence. So, again, it gets to interpretation. That's why you're watching this show. Loose lips sink ships. Don't admit anything you don't have to. And I like to have a spirit of... Remember, now they've all got the video cameras. So they're going to be videoing you and audio. So then we'll have to interpret from there.
All right, Kevin, thanks so much for that call. Very helpful for a lot of people watching. All right, right back to the lines right now. And we go to Hiram. Hiram, good evening. We're glad you're watching Open Line. Do you have a question for Kevin?
Yes, I do. I have a question. It's concerning a case that was heard in Tennessee, and it was a contract between Tennessee and Pennsylvania in the state of Tennessee. The judge said that I was in the right courtroom, and also they said that if I brought it back with a different approach, I could win my case. But then I come back, but it was a different judge, and he said I lost. And my point is, the first judge retired, and bringing back a different approach. I was wanting to know, since the contract was that took place between Tennessee and Pennsylvania, and also myself was involved, and I could win my case. how can I do it since my judge retired? Thank you.
Okay, here's what happens. Remember, lawyers can come in and you go in and see one. He says, well, this is what you can do and this is what you... That is his opinion. The judge can hear a set of circumstance, and he said, you know, I'm going to allow you to take a non-suit in your case. What is a non-suit? It means I can voluntarily withdraw my case and I can refile it. If I didn't have a contract, I could have a fraud and misrepresentation. That's kind of what the judge is saying through, is how I'm trying to interpret. So that guy can say, if you were traveling down this theory, you could refile this, bring all these in, and then I can give you some relief. Okay, remember, that's his interpretation. The next judge gets in and says, well, you filed it, but I don't see it that way. And so that's why we have court of appeals, and you have a right to appeal. People say, golly, it costs money to appeal. That's correct. It does. So, but do we have a right? Yes, we do have a right. And so, excellent identification. I'm glad that a lot of people can hear that. And the secret is to try to learn all you can about that judge. Some judges can really get wound up about marijuana in the home. Some judges can say, you know, it's a fact of life. People are using, and you knew they were using marijuana when you married them. So I've heard both interpreted from very skilled and honorable judges. Here we go. Thank you for the question.
All right, thanks so much, Hiram. All right, let's go to the lines. A lot of you calling in. If you do have one of those questions or comments, though, I just encourage you, give us a call as soon as you can so that we can get you in line to get those questions answered. We are going to take a short break, but when we come back, more of those calls, more of your questions right here on Open Line.